Noble Gold CEO Colin Plume thinks quantitative tightening is setting up the stage for a gold bull run. In his interview with the National Desk, Plume said that tightening is pushing the value of the dollar up. However, he predicts that by next year, the Fed will print money again to restart economic activities. This means now is a gold buying opportunity. If you want to understand better why you should invest in gold and silver at the moment, you should talk to Colin's team at Noble Gold. They'll run through everything with you and will be at your side through the whole process of investing if you're new. And they're giving away a beautiful 1/10 ounce gold American Eagle coin with every qualifying IRA or 401k this month. You can't go wrong with Noble Gold. Call the team now at 877-646-5347 to find out more, or visit noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, it's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for joining us for another inspired conversation. And I'm honored, excited, deeply excited to introduce these two guests to you. One has been on our channel a couple times already, Greg the Hydrogen Man. Thank you so much for joining us. And it is also my deep honor after so many years to finally have this opportunity to speak with Santos Bonacci. Santos, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, John. It's a pleasure, brother. I've also followed you for a long, long time. So you're doing a great job, and I appreciate you. And Greg.
Thank you both. Thank you. And we came together. Greg kind of put this together. Thank you for that too, Greg, for all the service you both, put out to humanity. And I think the common theme that unites us all is sovereignty and our lifelong quest to embody it fully and then inspire others and kind of show them what it means so they can figure it out for themselves. And Santos, as I said before we hit the record button, I've been listening to you and watching you for many, many years when my own journey began. So I'm really interested. What happened in your life? When did it begin for you, and what does sovereignty mean for you?
I guess I've always been freeborn. Astrologically, I can account for that in my chart. And one of those things is when you have a Leo rising. Leo rising people, it says they are freeborn. They never use their free will for evil. And besides other things, astrologically, my constitution is genetically, that's my DNA. My grandfather went to jail in Italy in World War II because the Italian government said that all grain growers had to give 90% of their crop over to the Italian government for the war effort. In the meantime, the poor Italians in Calabria were starving. So my grandfather, just as I would have done, he put some aside for his local townspeople to keep them alive. He did the right thing. And some coward denounced him, and he went to jail for 6 weeks, which is interesting because I also went to jail for 6 weeks for false, of course, for false motives and unjustly. So that's on my mother's side, my maternal side, and I always remember that because he was a good man, and he realized that he was doing a good thing, and they told on him, or dobbed on him, as we say in Australia, and he went to jail. So I've always had a hating for conscription and forced conventions, school. I lived in the country. I had to get the bus at 8 o'clock in the morning. My mother would be like, hurry up, have your breakfast. The bus is there, run. And you run out to the bus, and then you travel a half an hour to school, and then you got all these stupid teachers that are way more stupid than you are at 12, 13, 14. So I left school at 14 and a half years of age. That's how freeborn I was. I went and picked tobacco on my father's tobacco farm, and that's what I did for a living. My first job, tobacco picker. And I've never, ever wavered from that, even though I was a Jehovah's Witness for a couple of decades. But that's just simply because I wanted to serve God. I wanted to live the truth. I wanted to live a spiritual life. I wanted to be a good example. I wanted to go to heaven. I wanted the good things that obviously are there for the taking in this reality. But then I realized that it was a mind control thing, and then syncretism came to me. And then I started teaching sovereignty because I discovered the fraud of the birth certificate and all the frauds. I just realized governments were liars. Every time they open their mouths, they lie. Teachers are liars, educational institutions, all corporations. Everywhere you go, there are liars. And I hate more than anything the lie. The lie is my enemy. So I have been, you could say, fighting against the lie in my truth channel for many, many years. And the consequences have been, for me personally, it hasn't brought me any peace, or it has brought me a lot of satisfaction and joy to know that I've helped a lot of people with sovereignty. But it hasn't given me any peace or any health. I've been attacked. I know I've been attacked through radiation pulse weapons. I've been a targeted individual, and I've had severe sleep deprivation and constantly itching. Like right now I'm itching. I could be sitting here itching, but I just don't want to look like like a dog with rabies. I just keep the itch under control. But generally, as soon as I finish my shows, then I'm scratching away.
That is that is quite intense, and also unfortunately not surprising to me when you say this, because what we have felt collectively is the intensification of these attacks on a collective scale, through all means that are there, those who we can see and those we cannot see. And you're speaking, of course, about the ones we usually cannot see. But of course, the weaponry is so sophisticated that it can be used to do just about anything. And so this is not a conspiracy theory. We know these things exist. As a matter of fact, I just had a conversation last week with someone very close to the military circles that said, yeah, it's now happening all the time. But nonetheless, you are not giving up. You're not giving in. You're not throwing in the towel. You're still going, and you're still helping people, and you're still putting truth out there. Do you feel, or do you think that there is a moment that we're all approaching that is coming closer? Do you think where we will actually break through this constant manipulation and oppression? Do you think we're really close? Do you feel that?
Yeah, it's going to be this year. This is the chosen year. It will be this year. It might not be complete and all encompassing, but we're going to make the breakthroughs. All the breakthroughs that we need to. We're at the stage where King David is in the valley, and he's selecting his 6 polished stones for his slingshot, and he's watching Goliath on the mountain taunting Jehovah, the God of the Israelites, and he's going, I'm going to take this mofo, I'm going to take him out with 1 stone, man. I'm going to take him out. So we've got all these Davids, and they're all lined up with their slingshots, and big old corporate Uncle Sam and the petrodollar and all the scams and liars and deceivers. They think that they can just taunt us, and they actually do, and they mock us by making video, movies telling us what they're going to do to us. They're going to make a police state. They're going to vaccinate us. They're going to create pandemics. It's in The Simpsons. It's in it's in shows going way back to the 50s. So that's how much this Goliath thinks that he's invincible. But just remember, Goliath fell with one stone. This is the year, guys. After Shemitah, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur this year is the turning point. You may not actually, in the country where you are, you may not actually get the full benefit. I think in Mexico, we will here. The US is definitely targeted by demonic forces that have wanted to destroy it since 1776. And they gave it a death blow in 1871 with the US corporate constitution, and then in 33, and then in 72 when they took the gold standard off. So progressively, they've reduced the dollar to, I think it's 0.1% now. That's the value of the dollar. Because they realize, America, if you study Tartaria and the true history, you know that America always was. All those buildings, Chicago, San Francisco, you hear of the great Chicago fire, the great San Francisco earthquake, and all these great cities were burned down. And then suddenly,
in the same time period. All
in the 1850s to the 1860s. So you can see what happened. The Jesuits just had to destroy three countries. The US of A, 1913, with the Federal Reserve. Russia, 1917, the Bolsheviks. And Germany, 1918, with the reparations, which they could never, ever repay. That's why Germany had to come back. These were three nations that were so free, so intelligent, so Tartarian, producing so much good in the world, education-wise, everything. It took them from the First World War to the Second World War to absolutely invert all the good that our ancients bequeathed to us. And now what we're learning at school, the poor children, they've got LBGTQHFP rubbish, being indoctrinated to little children. You got these evil, I don't know what they are, demons or artificial creatures that are going in there trying to pervert the minds of little children, confusing them and so on and so forth. That's how far they've let the greatest nation that ever existed, the US of A, go. But guess what? The US is armed. The citizens are armed. And the last thing they should ever do is put their guns away, keep them polished, buy ammunition, sharpen your pitchforks, because they're going to be needed. They're going to be needed because these evil ones will not go away, but unless we make them go away. And we have all the power. All they have is a little bit of control. That's all they have.
Oh, amen to that, Santos. And I think we are armed with more than guns and ammunition. We're armed with the true spirit. And if we embody that, there's absolutely no way they can win this. And Greg, you said something so important before we started recording. You said something about the sovereignty of health and why it is so important and why people need to take charge and take care of their own temple, and how that translates to the bigger picture of the strength and the integrity and honesty and sovereignty of a whole nation, right? Can you speak on that a little bit, and also on your own true spirit that led you from very, very poor health? I know you were at the point where you didn't want to live anymore, to where you are now, where you are inspiring thousands and tens of thousands, now hundreds of thousands of people to take charge, to take care of their own temple.
Yeah, at a young age, obviously, I never thought about it. But once I don't know what it was, but once I started like cleaning my temple, which was what I was trying to do to heal because I was so sick, then I started getting more clarity too. My brain started just becoming so much more clearer. And obviously what I realized is, the nation is only as strong as its people. And whoever this evil one is that's trying to do whatever it is that they're trying to do, they try to infiltrate almost like from the inside. So, they're smart. They're going after the food. They know we need food. That's clear as day. They go after the medical system. They love to push the drugs and those things. And they're trying to weaken the people and fog their mind and keep them really busy too. The whole rat race. People don't even have enough time sometimes to feed themselves, and they just have to swing by and get, a dollar cheeseburger or whatever it is, some fast food. And it's just, I think it really does affect our mind. There's even research showing the relation between the gut and the brain and the chemicals we make in our brain. And when you put this trash in your gut, how do you think it's making your brain, function? And then we see those examples out in the world, the crazy things that we see. And then on top of it, like what Santos is saying, they're going after children because they're the ones that are so easy to influence, and because they're not fully developed yet. And so they're messing with their mind, and it's so sad to see. But I do personally, just like, I guess, like Santos too, I have a lot of faith. It's not just like I think we might win. We're going to win. This is going to happen. It's like it's written in the stars. It's clear as day. Even if you look at even things like scripture, in the end, we're going to win. I think the evil one knows how strong we are. And that's why it's attacking us with everything it's got. It has to throw everything in the kitchen sink at us just to try to kind of keep us down a little bit. But we have to, be strong. And I think we really need to learn. This is one thing because I had the same issue as a child. We need to learn how to take care of ourselves. I think a lot of us were raised on processed food. We're raised on fast food. We're raised on all these different things. And we don't actually know how to take care of ourselves. I didn't. Honestly, I lived off of frozen burritos and fast food and processed food. It's no wonder I was sick. I was so sick. It's a miracle sometimes. I don't know how people live off that stuff. Sometimes they do. And I just don't know. This human body is just a specimen. It's such a beautiful thing. And if you give it the right things, the things that it can accomplish, literally basic stuff that I've created. Like I've had these doctors contact me and they're like, how are you getting these results? And it's basic stuff. It's clean water, knowing how to eat clean food, clean out the body of some parasites. Obviously the hydrogen is really, really important. That was kind of the pinnacle point of everything. But nutrition, overcoming deficiencies, these are basic things. They're not rocket science. And yet doctors literally asking me, well, what did you do? I'm thinking, they should have known. But so it's been a pretty wild ride. But I really implore people, learn about your health, take care of yourself. Even if you are healthy, preventative. This is one thing in Japan that they teach a lot. Their medical system's so different. They're so focused on preventative care rather than trying to treat something once you have a problem. And I think that's important.
I think currently that's important. I think our whole aim is to return to a state of nature and organic being where we don't even think about sickness anymore or having to prevent it, because health is everywhere and is everything. Also, you said something very important, Greg, and that goes for everything, not just the medicinal or health part of life, is when most people feel ill, sick, or have some sort of pain, their thought goes to the person in the white robe. What will they say? And they will know what's wrong with me and they will fix it, rather than tuning in again into this temple, which can tell us everything about ourselves, also including how to heal it, both spiritually and physically, of course. And I know you've been helping us, Greg. Us personally, our family, with your protocols, with the hydrogen, with your knowledge. You've also been helping Santos and regain his health and regain his strength. Do you think that we are also in this area at this pinnacle moment where those who actually will take responsibility, those who will take care of their own temples, will have that strength of David, the strength that all Davids need to defeat this Goliath?
Absolutely. I just think it's so important. This body, this temple is, I think, sometimes more valuable than people really think. I don't think people think about it. I didn't think about it enough. But the stronger and the stronger that it gets, the more clear-minded that you become. And obviously you can fight, you can fight. If you can't fight and you're just laying on a bed and having to, take painkillers all the time, or you can't move and you become so dependent and reliant. I mean, you're not really living anymore. I think that was the reason I wanted to take my life too. I wasn't living, and now I became a detriment to others too, because I had to be cared for, and I didn't like that. I feel so much better where I'm at now, where I can take care of myself, and I'm actually helping others now. I help care for others. I do a lot of phone calls and help other people, trying to educate how to heal themselves. I was just doing a phone call about a woman whose father has kidney disease, and they had no idea that you can heal kidney disease because doctors tell you it's impossible. But I've done it before. I should say this is not medical advice, or, I'm not making any medical claims, but I've done it before, even for one of my own brothers. And so I know it's possible, but we're told so many things are impossible by the medical establishment. And I did work in the medical field for like 20 years. So I know what happens behind the curtain, and the things that are said, it'll boggle your mind. And all the people in the medical field are highly unhealthy. I mean, really, have you gone and seen what a nurse looks like lately? I mean, it's crazy.
Oh.
Or the health ministers and the secretaries of health, they're showing us something too, right? With appointing these people, they're showing us something very clearly. I think it's actually helping us to see where it really is. Santos, I wanted to ask you, because one thing I also noticed is when people go on this path of sovereignty, sooner rather than later, they find their true, honest relationship with the Creator. It's like a prerequisite for anything else, the spiritual connection. The interesting part for me is we all take a different path to that point. Also, I think that most people today are perceiving God to be maybe the God of this world, which is not, I think, the God we talk about. It's not the Creator we talk about. Can you speak on that and how your journey was? You said you were part of the Jehovah's Witnesses for a long time and you transcended this. What happened there, and why is this so important in our lives?
Yeah. The journey is the critical part of all of this. We all have a different concept of God, because God is, everything's fractal in the universe. There is only one God. Some traditions say there is no God because there is only God, but they don't mean literally that there is no God. They're just saying don't over devote yourself to a certain aspect of God, because everything is God. Every atom is God. The whole experience, whatever you see, whatever you think it is, a dream, an illusion, that's God. God is the stuff that exists. But there is one source of that God. That's called the monad. Now, the monad does nothing but exist in pure bliss in eternity. And pure bliss in eternity is great, but it's boring. After a gazillion years of being blissful eternally, you start going, all right, well...
what else?
What else? So what happens is that monad, the field, the ether, the source, decides to make some art. And it splits in two. It splits its beautiful, pure white and black light, hence the black and white, yin and yang, telling you about dielectricity, black light, magnetism, white light, beginning to move through the process of mental thought, moving the ether, perturbing the ether, and generating transverse waves, which are nothing but colour, red shift, blue shift. Red and blue are electrical. Black and white are dielectric and magnetic. And there's only 3 field modalities. That's the Holy Trinity. There are only 3 things that exist. And they exist from our point of view, from our perspective, in what we call atoms. All is atom. Everything is atomic. You are atom, Adam, a child of Adam, because you have an atomy, an atomy. So it's right in the word there. Your body is an anatomy. It's made of atoms. And in that word is also the word tomb, because you're in the shape of a T, which is the letter T for a tomb. And that's the cross that you and I must all bear, this body in the shape of a tomb, an anatomy. Hence, this dual God, even though Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, the Christ, says, it doesn't matter if you want to worship Shiva, you want to be a Shivite, you want to be a Vaishnava and worship Vishnu or Brahma, Osiris or Jesus, it all comes back to me. You know, it's like the milk. The milk can always boast, I'm in the butter, I'm in the cheese, I'm in the yogurt, I'm in the cream, I'm in the ghee. The milk is in all of those products. So that's the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Radha, which is white light. Krishna is black. Krishna is always black. And white light is Radharani, his consort. And they are the monad. The monad is 2. It's male and female in 1. Everything comes from the monad. And one day we will return to the monad as we go through all the lower gods, Jacob's ladder, because we are gods. The scriptures, even Jesus quoted the psalm. There's 2 places in the Bible, and Jesus quotes one psalm where it says, have I not told ye that ye are gods? So in Christianity, corporate Christianity, they say, oh, that's blasphemous. Call yourself God. Well, it is in a sense, because you're not God entirely. You are God with difference, and that's all you will ever be. All. I mean, that is everything. But you are God with difference. You will always have your own individual difference, but you're still God. You and I, we're all the same person, but we have our differences. And those differences are not to divide us, they're to make us stronger and more variety and beauty. So we will return to that monad, and we have 3 positions that we can have. We can either be the father or mother of Krishna, the husband or wife of Krishna, or the brother or sister of Krishna. That is the highest and most supreme calling that any individual will have. Below that, that's in the kingdom called Vrindavan. And we can go to Vrindavan in one lifetime. You don't have to reincarnate. You don't have to keep coming back here. You can ascend it. You can go straight to Vrindavan. If you are a devotee, this is my Tulsi beads. And my Tulsi beads, which I always wear, which is my symbol of devotion to Krishna and Radharani. Mostly Radharani, because Radharani is billions of times more powerful than Krishna, the Queen of Heaven. So if you are a devotee of the source and connected to that source, you will be with that source. That's how beautiful this world is. And even though Greg and myself have often, well, we have in the past wanted to die, that's not suicidal. Neither of us have been suicidal. We would never even contemplate such a thing. But many, many times throughout my life, I wish I was physically dead and out of this body. That's probably why I'm itching, because my spirit is just longing to go home. There's just longing to be in another place. I feel like a fish out of water. I do have a Pisces moon, so that doesn't help. But I'm definitely dysfunctional in this world. I see people getting more and more stupid, more and more robotic and zombie-like, and I have to learn to overcome that fear of going out in the public now. I generally just stay at home, lying in bed. Most of the day, I think I spend 6 hours just lying in bed. I haven't played the guitar for about 6 months.
Does it not bring you joy anymore, or does it hurt to play?
Nothing brings me joy in this world at all. Not eating, not talking to people. I don't care how intelligent they are. Traveling, seeing mountains, seeing pyramids. Nothing. I'm not saying that to discourage people, because life is beautiful. I know it's beautiful, but something has happened to me since I've come to the Yucatan Peninsula, where I believe I've become a sannyas without wanting to. Well, I guess I wanted to ultimately, because ultimately everyone must become a sannyas, which means you leave your wife, your lover, your children, your pets, your home, your material assets, and you go up to the mountain to a cave and you stay there until you learn how to leave your body and go back home. And everyone must do this in one way or another. Not exactly like that, but the sannyas is like in India, there are plenty of sannyasas in the mountains. They live for thousands of years. They don't talk to people. They don't like people. And they've learned how to not lust over sex and food, and they don't eat. They really don't, and they can live forever. And they just enjoy the bliss of being alone, because when you're alone, you're all one. When you're with people, you're divided. It's good to be with people. I love people, and I love this world. And yes, I do love, enjoying beautiful food and everything, but it's different. I don't get the same pleasure. I see a different side now. I see the side where it's nothing matters, really. In this world, nothing matters. All these ego stories that we make, all these arguments we have with people on the internet, all these ideas and opinions that we have and false beliefs, and we fight for them, and it's so destructive. None of that matters. Nothing matters but I am. And the eternal bliss that we can have one day. So in this world, all these pretty things, they look nice. I love looking at flowers. I enjoy conversations with intelligent people. Yeah, sure. But if I had the choice of green button yes and red button no, I would pick no, and I would pick get out of this world now. I believe in euthanasia. I believe that everyone should have the power to decide whether they want to live here or not. Why should we be forced to have to eat and work and live in this world if we don't want to? I don't want to. I don't want to live in this world. I don't want to live in this world.
Oh, I hear you.
So it's not suicide. You know, you know, never should one contemplate such a thing. But you know, when you become a sannyas, it's different. You know, I look around when I walk down the beach and I see people. You know, everyone's drinking beer. Mexicans, like, they're all out there drinking. They've got lobsters and you know, and pork, you know, and sausages, and they're all drinking, and they're all fat and overweight. And it's the most obese country in the world. And they're all on the beach and they're drinking, and they're drunk, and they've got this loud music, and I'm walking through there just keeping in my meditative. I do my daily grounding, and I see that, and I quickly then jump in the water and wash all those hormones off of me, and then run straight home and pour clean water over me and wash all those dirty frequencies that come from people. They truly are shedding hormonal poison. Rest assured, if you, I wouldn't be shaking everyone's hand. Don't be eager to, if someone comes up, and especially when they come to you and they say, "Oh, hey, how you going, man?" and they put their hand out, be very careful. If you feel that you want to shake someone's hand, you do it. I wouldn't be hugging, touching people unless you really, really love them and trust them. I'm telling you, it's the best way for demons to jump into your body and take control. They're parasites and they will control your mind. And just from a hug from someone, I get a lot of people every day, people catch me on the beach. "Santos, oh, we came here just because of you. Puerto Morelos, how are you?" And they come and they just jump on top of me and hug me. And I'm like, "Oh, fuck." You know, I mean, I don't know you. You know, you claim to love me, and, you know, I'm your hero, which I don't want to be anybody's hero. I just want to be me and left alone. And they latch onto me with all their sweat and hormones, and then they, you know, shake. And I don't feel the same after that. I feel affected. They affect me, and it's not always.
You know, an interesting little thing that you're mentioning about that, Santos, is I think of the Japanese culture, because they bow to each other to respect, but they're not into touching each other and shaking hands.
No.
That's, you know, and they understand the cleanliness aspect. They're incredibly clean society.
Well,
And,
my Japanese wife, when in 2008, when we went to Japan to visit her family, when we got to her home, the mother just looked at her and they looked at each other, and they didn't touch. And I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm Italian. You know, we're kissing, mwah, 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 miss you, oh, beautiful, beautiful, blah, you know, all this touchy, and they just do this." And I said, that's where I learned this stuff. I learned a lot from Japan. They're very clever people. They're way more advanced. And she said, "No, we don't show love by touching. If we do, it's a different touch. It's for healing. It's Reiki. There's a place for touching. You don't have to touch when you greet someone. It doesn't prove that you love them just because you kiss someone. All you're doing is you're just putting your saliva on them, and then that saliva with all its blood and all of its DNA penetrates that person and changes them forever."
I think when you said that, Greg, and what you just, you know, confirmed is, I think we lived in a culture that respected the space of another, their thoughts, their contemplation, their meditation, and would never disturb another unless invited into their space. But that's, of course, part of the program, a constant disruption of where you are, because you're building castles with your thoughts. You're building invisible castles, and that sometimes takes years to do. And Santos, when you described your current presence, how you feel about this, it reminds me a lot of masters that pretty much describe the same thing, where they are, and I'm not to call myself that by any stretch of the imagination, but I had a similar experience years ago where nothing in the physical world I would do, nothing I would apply had worked out in any way, shape, or form. Everything was futile. It was just not working. And no matter how many hours, no matter how many attempts, nothing would work. And I realized I had to surrender to the inner realm. And I did that for hours and hours each day. And even in that inner realm, I had to go through the stages of deception where one light would appear and I thought, oh, that's it. And I quickly realized, no, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. A lot of deception even there until you fall into the space of all that is. And there's nothing to do. The feeling of that space is there's nothing to do. There's nothing to accomplish, nothing to achieve. You just are. And yet, at least for me, I came back oftentimes out of that space still with a desire to inspire, because I feel we're so close. Even though all the things you said are so true, the disparity on one side is so huge. The ignorance, the stupidity, the dirt, everything is so huge. Yet on the other side, there's something manifesting, and I feel like we're so close of breaking through. And so I can't help, and I think probably that's the reason why we all are still here. And while we're not bathing in all that is for all of eternity, is simply because our presence and the presence of so many others has significance, has meaning, and inspires others. Greg, how does that feel for you, to be in a space that might be foreign to your true nature? And how do you experience this on a daily basis?
You know, what Santos was just saying is something that I also experienced, but I experienced mine as a child when I was around 7 or 8 years old. Nothing mattered. No joy from anything, which is unusual for a kid, but I had zero joy literally from anything. I didn't care about nature, the mountains. I didn't care about anything. And it was killing me inside, actually. And that's why I became suicidal, actually, at such a young age. You know, it started around 8 years old. And that's probably obviously the reasons that I started getting sick, because I poisoned myself so many times. I unfortunately did try to take my life multiple times. And the very first thing I ever really sought in my life was happiness. I wanted to figure out what it really would take to find happiness. And I knew that happiness wasn't money. I knew it wasn't things. I already knew that somehow instinctively. So I didn't even try, because otherwise you could spend your whole life chasing those things, thinking they'll bring you happiness. And even if you ever achieve them, you find out that they don't. So then you really have to dig deep and really figure out where this food for the soul is, not for the body, but for the soul. And what I figured out a few things, but one of those things is others, people. This is why whether you can inspire others, whether you can share knowledge with them that can help them. This is what, when Jesus said, love one another, as I have loved you. It's like, this is what it's all about. It's that simple. And yes, sometimes we can disagree on things, and I think that's fine. We can agree to disagree, but we can still love each other and do good things. And so that's why that's actually been, if anything, that's been the number one goal in my life, always trying to dig down. And I'm always seeking, I know that there's a higher, like a spirit that has much more wisdom than I do. I've encountered it in meditation, and I gained so much knowledge from that place. And so part of my goal has always been to understand that my flesh doesn't know what's best, and it's my spirit that knows what's best. And that's why I always just want to fulfill its will. Whatever it wants, I literally just have complete faith in it, because I know that it knows way more than this body, that I'm currently inhabiting. And then I just try to become better, do better, everything in regards to that. And that was part of the reason that I wanted to go to Japan, because in peace and in silence, like Santos was talking about being alone, you can dig deeper when you're alone. You can't really do that when I am helping a lot of people. I get a lot of emails and I'm do a lot of phone calls, but this is all temporary for me. I'm still waiting for that opportunity to go over there. And of course they have magical hot springs, which I think is something that's just so magical from Mother Earth. The water, there's so much stuff about water, whether it's the hot springs, making just clean water, even hydrogen. Water is made up of primarily hydrogen. We just found a way to dissolve it into there and all the magic of that. And so, yeah, all these concepts, it's funny. I think all three of us seem to have actually that kind of common denominator. But in the end, it's all about others. It's And I think all people should feel that way, because I feel like sometimes people are, it's like, no, it's all about me. You know, they're very selfish. And I definitely don't think that's the way to go.
I couldn't agree more. The Santos, what I have noticed over the years in your work is you leave no stone unturned. You go, what people call rabbit holes, when really to me, they're portals to truth, or portals of truth, if you will. And a lot of those rabbit holes or portals speak to different people and eventually lead them to this place of truth, or at least of seeking real truth. One that appears to be very attractive, or does a lot for a lot of people, is this current explosion of the topic of the simulation. And you of course named it earlier. You said the concept has been around forever. The Maya and the Gnostics talk about it, and other cultures talk about this. How do you see this? Do you think this is kind of the big alarm, or big bell that goes off, the big light that goes off for a lot of people, that will actually help us go deeper and go beyond this cycle? And do you think this is a simulation?
Yeah, it is, of course, in a sense. Depends what you how you see the word. There's different ways of looking at it that various ones have explained, but it's a simulation in that it's called Plato, the Neoplatonists, which is essentially the greatest school of wisdom that probably ever existed, which based their wisdom on the Greek, ancient Tartarian Greek wisdom, which is actually in the Christian Greek scriptures. So when you're reading the Christian Greek scriptures, you're actually reading Plato. It's one and the same. It's Neoplatonism on steroids. And I'm a Neoplatonist, and I love the New Testament. So it's a simulation in that even the Apostle Paul says this is not the real life. It's not the real life. The real life is yet to come. This is a shadow. And the Christ is the fulfillment of the shadow. The law of Moses was the shadow. The law of Moses taught us to find, because a shadow you cannot reify. You can't make a shadow real. It's not a real thing. You cannot reify a shadow. It can't do anything. It can't act on anything. It's, if it could, if I'm walking down the street and my shadow decides one day, I'm sick of following this prick, is short, ugly, and stupid. And I'm just going to make my own, my own way. And off goes my shadow, Well, it's not going to happen. It's an absurdity to even think such a thing, It will always be my shadow, but it's a shadow. And so everything that leads up to Christ, which is consciousness, ultimate consciousness, is just a shadow. So, and that's a simulation. That's what I call a simulation, a holographic, holy. Graphic comes from writing, graffiti. It's the holy writings. So everything has been written from holy energy, electromagnetism. It's been written from the stars, from the sun. They are writing and encoding all the stories of each individual, all their destinies, all the fate, every experience that they have in real time, in the eternal now. And so that is, yes, it's a simulation. Think about it. I can think back 20 years ago, let's see, I fell in love with a girl. Her name was Leanne. Well, back then, I would have done anything to be with Leanne. She was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Now, that she hardly exists. 20 years have gone by. She means nothing to me at all. At all, at all, at all. But back then, what I would have done, You know, we're changing in this eternal now, which shows that that it is a simulation. Time is only a very clever design by the demigod, which means not the monad I spoke about before, the dyad. There's a monad, a dyad, a triad, a tetrad. Those that they make the tetractys of Pythagoras. The Pythagorean is one dot at the top, then there's two dots, then there's three dots, then there's four dots, and that's the 10. And 10 is 1. But the top dot is the monad. The second dot is the god of duality, red shift, blue shift, and that's where everybody reaches. No one passes that. No one can pass the dyad if they're not worthy to get to the monad. So they're stuck in this polarized world. That's why we've got red Republicans, blue Democrats, red police siren, blue police siren, red pill, blue pill. Roses are red, violets are blue. Red blood, blue blood. Red tap, red faucet, blue faucet for hot and cold. Red for little girls, blue for little boys. You see, they've made this red shift, blue shift God their God. It doesn't matter, because ultimately Krishna says it doesn't matter. You can worship whoever you want, man. You can worship the devil. Ultimately, all worship comes back to me. It's like the milk. The milk says you can eat that cake, but I'm in that cake. The milk says you can cook with ghee, but it comes from milk. The milk can boast, you can enjoy that, all kinds of cheese you want. There's millions of types of cheese, but they've all got milk in them. So that's how Krishna boasts. You can eat all that shit, eat whatever you want. It's all milk. It'll always come back. It will always come back to me. So, I mean, when I preach eternal truths, like for instance that humans are frugivores and they should never eat animals, I'm not talking to the general masses, because some people should eat animals because they're in the red shift, blue shift world, and you need animals when you're still there. When you're a sannyas and when you're a philosopher and when you're a devotee, well, then that's who I'm talking to. Those people, see, because that's why a lot of people, you'll see a lot of negative comments on some of my video, vids where people say, oh, this is complete hogwash. I never learnt this at school. Santos is talking rubbish and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's because there's two different people. There are devotees that are on the right-hand path of ascension, as Baphomet teaches, and then there are the ones that are going down to hell in vicious cycles of lust and greed and blah, 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 and that their teachings are totally different. That's why the lefties, the Democrats, that's why we call them lefties, because the left-hand path, left means sinister in Latin, and sinister is sin. That's where sin comes from. The people who follow the left-hand path, the goats, remember the goats go, Jesus said, I will divide the sheep from the goats. The goats will be on the left-hand side and they will go off into everlasting damnation. And the sheep, my sheep who follow me, they will go into God's kingdom and in God's eternal bliss forever. So the right-hand pather, I'm talking to right-hand pathers. So when I say that, we're frugivores and we should never eat animals, I'm not talking about everybody. I'm not condemning people who don't. It's because they need it. They still need it. And you should not deprive that from people. There's no judgment. But still there is the truth, because the truth is in the scriptures. It's not mine. I didn't make that up. And there's other things as well, like sexuality. Most men believe, and most women believe, that if their man doesn't ejaculate, well, then they haven't satisfied their partner. They urge their men to ejaculate. What's the matter? Haven't you? Why didn't you come? And they get depressed and they think, oh no, I think I need to get a boob job, or I need to put more makeup on, or use different perfume. My man's not. That's not sex. Ejaculating is the worst thing a man can do. Not orgasm. But see, again, there's no condemnation. I'm not condemning ejaculators. I'm just saying, if you're on the right-hand path, you never, ever, ever want to ejaculate one little sperm. Remember Monty Python? Every sperm is precious, or whatever. Remember that one? Anyway, I'm a big Monty Python fan. But it's a different. It's mostly I'm speaking to a separated class. I have separated myself from this world. I've made that separation. I made the choice 15 years ago never to eat flesh. I made the choice 10 years ago never to ejaculate ever again. And I will stick to that forever. But I don't condemn people who don't. I love them. Some of them are my best friends. My best friend Daniel here, he eats fish and he's the founder of the Syncretism Academy. So I don't. My family, the people all around me, and that does not mean that they're not going to ascend either. That does not. It's not condemning them from not ascending. Flesh eaters will also ascend, but they won't ascend to the very, 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 very best place that they think that they're going to go to, that they want to go to. But they still will ascend. Everyone ascends. So there's no condemnation. But, if you think that this is still an opinion, well, then all I can say is you've never read, to anyone who's thinking that these are my opinions, you've never read anything older than about 300 years, because that's when the Jesuits started the big lie of, overtaking the seminaries and teaching little boys how to ejaculate. Remember, why would there be such a thing as a seminary? You go to a university to become a doctor. To become a priest, you have to go to a seminary. What's semen got to do with becoming a priest?
Apparently everything.
It's got everything to do with becoming a priest, because the name of the fluid which comes from your claustrum and goes down to your sacrum, the true name of that is chrism. And chrism is charisma. And people who ejaculate every day, they're losing their chrism, hence their charisma. And you can see their depleted look on their face. They're like, when's my next ejaculation? I'm going to go to the bar and see if I can pick up some whore and take her home and have a one-night stand. They're ready for the next. And usually the next has to be more sensational, more gratifying, more drugs, more alcohol, more people involved. These days, orgies are the real especially in Australia, where I come from, down in Melbourne. I mean, everybody's going to an orgy on the weekend. You hear, you walk past someone in the park and they're like, oh yeah, man, there was 30 people at the orgy last night. It was great. It was really nice. We had ecstasy and everything. And I'm thinking, oh boy, you've just given away your DNA to filthy, dirty, demonic strangers just because they look sexy and they've taken their clothes off. You've given away your DNA. What the hell are they going to do with your property now? And you've received all of their DNA just by kissing them and touching them and having an orgasm or whatever with them. Now you have all their ancestral demons, parasites, hormones, karma. And this is why people are neurotic, toxic, robotic, zombie-like. They're perishing. They're perishing. People are perishing right before our eyes.
Actually, what you're saying, my wife and I actually talk about this a lot, because There's this mainstream perception that when couples have less sex and it becomes less, and then they go to therapists and they take drugs and it wasn't this thing. Hold on, you're just stopping something really good here. This could be the beginning of your path to true self, to true spirit, and of course, like you say, when it comes to sex, and of course in mainstream when it comes to money, which for many people, not everybody, for many people it represents greed. It represents this eternal cycle of, I want this material, I need this material. When this happens, when you challenge that, you attract a lot of hate naturally, because you're challenging the very foundation of the lie. So that to me is very significant. Everything you just shared is deeply significant. I also admire how, and this is also a sign that I see in so many people that have gone all the way. I admire your, on the one hand, absolutism of this truth, but at the same time, you're saying we still need to apply ourselves on all levels to defeat the Goliath. If we don't, if we stick to one or the other level only, we won't be able to do this. And you also said you believe this is the year. Of course, the energy shows that what's unfolding. We're in the end of a fake month, because the months and the years and everything is distorted, of course. But in the current prevalent calendar, we're going towards the end of September. What do you think in this physical realm? What will unfold? What will people have to deal with, prepare for, and take charge of?
A general shift. There will be a general shift in their conscious space, and an upward, hopefully, for people who are on the right timeline. It will be up and shifted, expanded and upward. For many, there's no hope. They're too damaged. Not in this life, but they will be reclaimed and get another chance. Everybody does. But in this life, we're going to lose a lot of people. There's definitely two timelines already. I see it. I feel it. I know it. I'm always in contact with people who are in the right timeline, and then 10 minutes later, I'm in the timeline of the people that are on the broad and spacious road to destruction. And I see it clearly. There are two destinies unfolding right now. And come September 24, the equinox, just 4 days away, that equinox is called, the 23rd of September by the Jews is called Judgment Day, because that equinox is the beginning of the fall. And that's when the sun falls down to December, down to winter. So the fall, that's when, and usually because the winter's coming, that's when most farmers cull the herd, right? And the great culling is happening right now. They've prepared it for this Shemitah year. They've prepared it, and all the medications that people have taken, we won't mention the names, so the ones. All of those, depending on the genetics of the people, all of those will cull many, many millions of people. They've been planning this great culling for a long, long time, And I don't think there's anything particularly really, really evil and sinister about it. It's just, it's part of the demigod's way of doing things, He constructs and reconstructs this world for our benefit, really, ultimately.
It's a challenging thought. Dolores Cannon was someone who basically, in other words, always said, it's not really evil because their intention is not really evil. It's hard for us to grasp this because it inflicts so much pain and suffering for what seems like eternity. It has been. But of course, these resets happen. I think the difference is, at least it might be our hope that is deceiving us, but I feel something strongly that we have this opportunity. We have this opportunity to break through a cycle, which seems so much clearer now. Do you feel that too, Greg? Do you feel that too, that there's an opportunity for us here that we could actually change the trajectory of this whole story?
Absolutely. I think, life, although it seems hard and it can be very painful, there's always so much opportunity here. I always wonder, because I believe in purpose. I believe that there's a purpose for basically everything. And I was, with all the pain and suffering, I was always trying to ask myself, like, what's the purpose of this? What exactly can this lead to? And, it did, for me personally, the pain did lead to a lot of good things, which is actually affecting others in positive ways. So I personally think that it actually reminds me of a scriptural verse. There's a verse where Jesus is talking to the apostles and he's telling them what's to come. And they're like freaking out because it's not looking good, what's to come. And then he basically said, don't freak out, guys, because for these things must come to pass before the marking of my return, And I just think that we have to go through what we would call maybe growing pains. And I just think, though, that we need to persevere, though, and stay strong and be our best, do our best. That's just my personal opinion. And that's what I practice in my life. I just try to be better, do better. And I think that I do think that there's light at the end of the tunnel, but I think it's going to be a rough ride. But I do think that there's good things to come. So I actually have a lot of faith and hope, but it does sadden me deeply when we see the things that we're going to have to go through. It's not like it doesn't sadden me deeply. It really does. I don't like to see people hurting each other, and I want the best for everyone. But again, sometimes you have to go through those things. Even me reflecting on my own personal life too, right? I look at these things that I hated going through, but if I really look at it, I've grown so much because of it. And I have the same hope for humanity. I hope that there's a lot of growth that's going to come and that things are just going to turn into the golden age, just some really wonderful, beautiful things to come.
I haven't heard of a journey of anyone that has anything worthwhile to share that didn't include great suffering. The suffering of the shedding of everything that isn't true, that isn't authentic. I mean, that's when the delusion breaks down, those who believe in the delusion suffer greatly, naturally, right? And we, as we watch them, because of our love, our unconditional love for our brothers and sisters, we suffer too. I think that's very natural. I want to extend an invitation to keep this conversation going, because this goes deeper and deeper and deeper. But I don't know if we will have the chance in the next weeks or months even to do this through these means. We shall see if this is possible. But for now, both Santos and Greg, what is your kind of message for the people right now? And also, where can they find your work and learn more about what you're doing?
All right. So, my channel is Mr. Astrotheology, one word, Mr. Astrotheology. That's my YouTube channel. The academy is syncretismsociety.com, syncretismsociety.com. And what I would say to people is hang in there, because I know I'm the one who gets the hundreds of emails every day of people in great despair and anguish. They're at the end. They're about to check out, man. There's people, they're telling me, I want to check out. I'm not doing well, man. I've got no money. I've got no food. I've got no home. I'm living in a car that doesn't work. I have to urinate and defecate in this little hole over there, and I eat whatever people can give me, and et cetera, et cetera. So now, at the same time, I've got this beautiful house here in Mexico, beautiful beach. It's one of the most beautiful towns in the world, lovely friends all around me, and yet I'm 100% convinced that I'm feeling the same pain as that individual, everyone that writes to me. People say, "Oh, you got lots of friends, Santos. You're known all around the world, and people like you. Yeah, you've got haters, but you've got a lot of lovers as well." And I don't know. I feel lonely, and loneliness has always been with me. I can't. I'm just lonely. Not alone. I mean, to be alone is a perfect condition for me, but loneliness is different. So hang in there, because you you've got no choice. If you decide to check out and you do that, you will carry the same problems with you in the next life. You cannot take your life thinking you're going to improve it. What you stop here, you continue in the other realm. So it's whatever you're going through, pain, anguish, sorrow, you just have to hang in there. That's all I can say. That's what I'm doing. I'm telling you, every day, most days are completely miserable for me. You know, there's very, very little happiness. I'm not a happy person. I'm not happy at all. You know, I make happiness happen every day. I generate it. I'm a happiness generator. But misery is all around. I feel other people's pain. I know there's people starving in Africa. I know there's people being murdered. I know there's adrenochrome parties. I know there's people trafficking. I can't be happy in this world. So, but hang in there, because the rewards are coming.
Thank you, Santos. There must be something greater than happiness, which I call probably, maybe the word isn't even right, but I call inspiration, because you show up. You continue to show up. So there must be a deep driver that goes beyond what we consider happiness, that keeps you coming. And even today, allowing us to learn from you and listen and feel. So thank you from the depths of my heart, with all my spirit, for that.
For sure, brother.
Greg, what are your words today, and where can people find you?
Well, people can find me, my YouTube channel is Uprising 144K. Uprising, lifting up the spirit, just the way that hydrogen also raises up back to the heavens. And I know that we're going through difficult things, and it's difficult to tell people exactly, in my opinion, what they should be doing, because everybody's at a different stage, in their life and where they're at. But one thing I think that we can always do is we can always strive to be better, and we can always strive to do better. So one is treating ourselves better. This is where the whole health aspect really comes into it. One vision that I feel like I have is we need to make this body extremely strong for whatever is to come. I don't know why. This is something that I've been feeling. We have to make our immune system strong. We got to make this body strong. They're going to attack us. I just think that's so important. And just to be strong. And then also, to love your neighbor. Don't hate other people. Everybody's at different places. Like Santos was saying, like he doesn't eat meat. I don't eat meat either. But that doesn't mean that we're going to judge people who eat meat per se, and hate on them. We're all brothers and sisters, at least in my mind. And I really think we should all love one another. And sometimes we just have to learn to just not judge people for wherever it is that they're at. There's just too much hate in the world. And I completely feel what Santos is saying too. I'm in the same boat. It always hurts me. I know that there's pain out in the world, and I know there's people suffering. And it's funny, there's a writing that said, when I was young and foolish, I wanted to change the world. And when I became older and wiser, I realized it is myself that I must change. And this is why I put so much effort, me personally, into me. I try to be better me. I try to do better by me, because the better I am, the more I can share that goodness with others. So I work on me a lot. I put a lot of effort into myself. And so if anything, maybe that's what I would share with people, is try to be a better version of you, because now you can bring that light into this world. And boy, does this world need some light. So.
Amen, brother. Amen. Thank you both, Santos and Greg, for your authenticity, your knowledge, your wisdom, your willingness, to show up and continue to show up. I deeply appreciate it. And on my part, Inspire Tribe, I believe something has been coming to me for many years. I haven't shared this publicly, I think. Everything will be new again. This moment is coming, and you will not know what that truly means in its fullest sense until it comes. But you can ready yourself for it by knowing it, by embodying it already, and by expecting it also, because only those who can do that will reap all of the benefits of this renewal. That's what I have been getting for many years. Again, You have to feel it yourself. You have to go on your own path. There's nothing that can replace that. None of the knowledge any of us shares, none of the wisdom will mean anything unless you go on your own path, and that path is within. It's not out there. Yeah. Thank you both. Thank you, Inspired Tribe. We love you and we appreciate you. And we'll be back with you again very, very soon. Thank you.